know we all love to spend money, whether it's going out to eat or shopping, but the truth is that if you ever want to retire at a reasonable age, then you need to learn how to budget and save accordingly. And there's no better time to do that than the beginning of the new year. This is the time to resolve to get your financial health back in order. This morning we have Michael Limas, who's with AXA Advisors. He's here to help us out, break some of these things down for you. Thank you so much, Michael, for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So let's go ahead and talk about the now right now. Let's focus on what you need to do right now, what you need to have in the bank, and what you need to have saved up in case something does come up.
Right. There's definitely a few basics that you want to have in place, and the one that's extremely key is your emergency savings. So most individuals always ask me, how much should I have in emergency savings? And what I typically recommend is you want to have 6 months worth of your expenses saved in a liquid account. So whatever your expenses are per month, you want to multiply that number times 6, and you want to have that in a savings account.
Should you try to have a little bit extra?
Yeah, it's always recommended to have more than that. If you can strive to do 12 months of expenses, that's phenomenal. But at the same time, it's very difficult just to do 6. So if you can set the goal at 6 and exceed that, that's great as well.
And of course, that's in case you have something very serious that comes up, like maybe even a medical emergency. And speaking of medical, you recommend that people actually focus on insurance as well, correct?
Exactly. So it's risk management. So things like health insurance, in the event of an illness, you want to make sure that you have the proper coverage in place. Property and casualty, if for whatever reason something happens to your car or to your home, you want to make sure you have the proper coverage. And then life insurance is extremely important as well. You're one of the biggest income producers, or your spouse, if it's dual income, you want to make sure that you protect that income as well, and life insurance is a perfect vehicle for that.
And a lot of people don't exactly know how some of these insurances work, so how can they find that out? You
definitely want to leverage a financial professional, and what I always recommend to clients is make sure they have multiple licenses. Some individuals may only have one license, so you want to make sure they have insurance licenses, investment licenses, and what we call advisory licenses, and that way they're comprehensive financial planners and they can help you in every facet of your financial plan.
You talked a lot about budget, knowing what your expenses are per month. How do you actually make that budget up? How can our viewers look at 2013 and say, hey, I need to know exactly what my budget is? How can they make a budget?
Well, definitely there's always going to be fixed expenses, so those are those core expenses that you can't get away from, and then there's going to be variable expenses, which are maybe entertainment, clothing, and food. So you want to make sure you have the fixed expenses already set out, and then you try to get the variable expenses, and then just trying to get to one number. Again, it's hit or miss every single month, but you can get an approximate number and try and stick to that approximate number and then save based off of that number.
Well, we want to thank you for being with us this morning. You're going to stick around because in our next half hour, he's going to be talking to Hannah about what you can do in the long term to really save for your retirement, because that's a huge thing, especially if you're in your 20s. A lot of us don't really know how to do that. We'll be right back in just a moment.